Okay, in this video, we're going to go over actually several different exercises, the exercises we use to teach dogs to walk with a loose leash. Now, dogs have something called an opposition response, which means that they are programmed to resist pressure. In human terms, that means if I push my dog, it's going to push back. If I pull my dog, I'm going to pull back. So this exercise, silky leash training, is actually a Grisher-Stewart exercise. I didn't come up with this one. And what this does is teaches the dog to go towards the pressure. I'm going to be using a clicker for this one, and I like to have my clicker in the same hand that I'm holding the leash with. Now when I do this, I like to have the leash shorter, this part shorter than my arm. The dog has to be stationary and I have to be stationary before I start. And I want the dog standing, not sitting or lying down. Also, if you have a bungee leash, I like those for walks. I don't like them for this sort of training. This is not one, but just so anybody who's watching at home. All right, Nellie. So I'm going to lay the leash across my hand and have the clicker so I can be hands-free. I wait for her to stop moving. As soon as she does, I put a little bit of pressure on the leash. I should have had that open, huh? I take a step back to get her. As soon as she stops moving. Yes, now you want to come to me? Let's call Boomer back.
Boomer, come.
There you go. Nice. So she's stationary? Yes. The instant she gives into pressure, and she stopped moving, I would wait for her to be static first. Now I'm applying pressure. Now she kind of shut down. So let's see, do that again. Oh. So as soon as she gives in any amount whatsoever towards the pressure, I click, then she gets a treat. So she's stationary. Wait for her to be stationary, but not sitting. And this is why you want to have a short leash. I'm going to make it even shorter for her. So as soon as she stops moving, this is a better example. There we go. That's more typical of what they're going to do is add a little pressure. Now some dogs, if they sit, you got to be ready to, as soon as she stops moving, be ready to put that pressure on. Normally I don't want to sit, I want to give in, but that took the pressure off. There we go. Lazy click on my part. And it could be a lean towards that direction or a step towards it. I prefer to go to the side rather than up. It's like, what are you doing, weirdo? Now, if that sort of thing goes, don't pull while that's going on. I want her to be relaxed. And we'll do one more. Not a stiff though. I don't want to relax it. Just a little bit of pressure. So as soon as she took that shuffle step, I click, then I give her the treat. If you want to use your marker word, you could say your marker word, but I prefer to do this because the click is coming from where the pressure is coming from, so it causes them often to turn and look back towards us. Eventually it's going to be coming towards you, but right now when we do this, we're going to go off to the side. Now remember, 2 tips. When you're doing, your dog has to stop moving, you can't be moving. So don't be like this and then pull because it's going to cause your dog to come up. You want to keep on this step until you can do 4 out of 5 times. Where when you apply the pressure, the dog comes to you 4 out of 5 times. When that's the case, then you're ready to go to level up. Now for all of these exercises, we have the same 4 steps of leveling up. And you could even have 5 or 6. What we usually do is we practice in the house. The number one reason that dogs fail to learn to walk with a loose leash is we practice on a walk or an environment that is too distracting. Think of this as your classroom. So this is the easiest place for the dog to learn the skill first. Once they learn the skill, then we're going to make it, and she can do it 4 out of 5 times here. And I would do it all over inside your house. Then I would go to the back deck. Practice on the back deck, not in the dirt, not in the grass. 4 out of 5 times there, then practice a couple more times so she has practice at the level you want. Then go to the backyard, practice 4 out of 5 times there. Then when she does it 4 out of 5 in a row there, then you go to your front yard. But if she only does 3 out of 5 times, then you keep on practicing there. If she only does 2 out of 5 times, that might mean that environment is too distracting. We back up to an easier environment. When you're doing this, I want you to practice this minutes a day. 3, 5-minute practice sessions with each dog every day. And that's the crucial part of this. A lot of training, they ask you to do this for an hour or so with the dog. We're only asking 15 minutes, 3 15-minute, but if you skip a day, that will be profoundly impactful. This is a 4-week process, but it helps the dog practice each individual exercise. So don't cheat. Don't go to the next level till your dog is successful here, because otherwise you're just going to have crappier results. The goal is not to get through these exercises fast. The goal is to get through these exercises successfully, meaning your dog does the response. This is the first step, teaching your dog that when it feels pressure on the leash, it should go towards that pressure. Okay, so for this exercise, this is called the leash pressure bowl game. There's a bowl on the floor right over there. That's going to be the target. The goal of this exercise is to teach the dog that if they pull, it's going to cause us to stop. Now, I don't do this exercise until I've been able to level up the leash, the silky leash training we did in the previous segment, in the house, then the back porch, then the backyard, then the front yard, where 4 out of 5 times in a row when I pull, the dog gives in. And she's not ready for that here, but we're going through all these exercises just so the guardians can know what this is, know all the steps. So once you get to the point where 4 to 5 times in your front yard, then you go back to your inside and you practice this exercise. So we'll let her get that treat. And what we're going to do is the guardian's going to say your name and put a treat in the bowl over there.
Nellie.
All right, so I am going to stop the instant she pulls. Now, do we want her on the right or left side? Left?
We could do left, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start with her on the left. I have the leash gathered up. I give her a reasonable amount of leash, not a ton. Nellie. All right, so we're going to walk towards the bowl. Instant. I anticipate she's going to stop, or instant she puts pressure on it. I stop. As soon as she gives it up, takes the pressure off, and I continue walking. There you go. Now, if you're single, you can put a ball on either side. I'm going to go ahead and preload this one. And we're going to come back over here. Come on, Nellie. And I'm keeping her on my left side. Nellie, sit. For some dogs who are very excited, I'll have them sit when we first start this process. You don't have to. What we should see is her starting to pull to get to that bowl, but eventually as we practice, she should start walking with me. So now she knows what it is. I anticipated, so I stopped. I'm waiting for her to take the pressure off. So just like the last exercise, she's got to take the pressure off before I go forward. She takes a step back, but there we go. So she took the pressure off. I anticipated, so I stopped early. That's not quite what I'm looking for. So we're not saying the marker word here because the marker word needs to be followed by a reinforcement. If I give her a reinforcement on the way, it's confusing for this exercise. All right, so now let's do this again. So I'm going to put another tree here. Come on, Nellie. Sit. Yes. Yes. I shouldn't have said yes there, but it doesn't hurt when you don't need to. But you saw she was better there. Now, I think she was thinking I had a treat in my hand, so I'm going to be careful not to move my hand that way. Sit. Come here. I'm going to show you I got nothing in my hand. Sit. Sit. Yeah, good girl. Did it fall out? I think it might have fallen out. All right, let's do that again. Oops, come on. That was really good. You saw that she was walking next to me instead of pulling. Now, if she's constantly going this way, use your environment. Walk with a wall right here so she can't go that direction. I want to keep her on the left, and Boone is going to be on the right. Boomer, excuse me. I anticipate. Tiny bit of pressure that she put on the leash. This is more really the way it is because she knows where the treat is. Come on, Nellie. Doing better, Nellie. Oh, I forgot the treat. Also sometimes I like to use a bowl that makes a ding when I drop it in there. Helps at the beginning, you don't really need to, but it can help for some dogs. Nellie, sit, sit, yes. Show nothing in my hand. And I also vary my pace up. Now we're walking a little bit slower. Usually the last foot or two, like right this distance, is the hardest part because they're so close. And they just want to get that treat. All right, Nellie, come on, let's do one more for the road. Put your leash underneath. There we go. So what we're doing is we're isolating the individual elements of why dogs pull a leash. Now we're giving her a target to pull to. We're also having her practice walking on the designated side we want her to walk on. And the instant she moves, not moving in front, but the instant she puts pressure on a leash, we stop. This is loose leash training. This is not training a dog to heel. The dog can kind of go wherever it wants, it just can't put pressure on the leash. So you want to do this exercise until you can go 4 out of 5 times in a row and the dog walks just like she just did. Then we would do it out in the back on the deck. Then we would do it in the backyard. Then we would do it in the front yard. 4 out of 5 times before we go to the next one. But practice a little bit of that success. Now, I can put a bowl over there and a bowl where the camera is. We can do to walk back and forth and practice it this way. But also practice it this way. Have a nice long hallway this direction as well. Practice in a lot of variety of different environments and different motions and poses and locations is helpful for dogs. So again, this is called, I call it the leash pressure, the leash bowl pressure game. And so practice this one until your dog can do it in the front. In the front, maybe you have a bowl on that side of your sidewalk of your property and one over here by your driveway. The dog's walking back and forth, but when you're doing outside, at first we move outside in the front yard. Don't do it if there's a bunch of dogs or kids running around. Again, we want to gradually make sure that that's getting more and more intense as the dog's skill set allows it to perform the way that we want. All right, so don't move to the next exercise until you can do this 4 out of 5 times in a row in the front yard. Okay, for this exercise, I call this the walk back game. And what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be dropping a treat, and I'm going to be using the clicker for this one. So I'm going to have my leash, I want her on my left side. So I'm going to put the leash in my right hand and put the treats in my left hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be dropping a treat to get her to, this is helping the dog kind of orientate towards following you. So for dogs, they look at whatever direction our feet are pointing. So my feet are pointing towards her. She thinks I'm addressing her. My feet are pointing that way. She thinks we're walking that way, which we are. But I want to start this one having her attention. And face mask a little bit aside, dogs usually when we're looking at them are more engaged. So what I'm going to do is have her come over here. And I'm going to drop a treat. As she walks towards the treat, I'm going to click because that's what I want her to do in following me. Then she licks up the treat. While she's licking up the treat, I'm taking my next step backwards. So at first, this may look like she's rushing towards me. Let's see how I do. I'm not as good at this as my trainers, but let's see how we do. So I'm going to put one down. So all we're doing is getting the dog used to following us, and we're using the treats so they don't rush past us. Gotta do a pirouette. And so this one, it's not a right or left side at first because the dog's just following us. So you wanna, if your dog is really rushing, sometimes I'll put, like, for a dog like her, I'll go like this. I put a treat here and a treat there. And then I'm dropping so on. So the order for this one is when the dog's here, you drop a treat when the dog is walking towards. Before they get to the treat, you click. When you click, then they're getting that treat. When they're getting that treat, you need to be stepping backwards. So when they look up, they see you dropping the next treat about 3 feet away. And as you do this after a while, some dogs will rush towards getting it. After a while, they kind of start following you very more nonchalantly. They can take 2 steps. There you go. And then I can turn around and go back the other way. All right, so this is the walk back game. It's a little bit awkward because you're bending over. But you want to do this again 4 out of 5 times in the house. Once you do it 4 out of 5 times, pretty much following you, not trying to go around you. Then you practice a couple times, then do it on your back deck. Careful with your back deck so they don't go through the gaps. 4 out of 5 times there, then your backyard. 4 out of 5 times there, then your front yard. So this is the walk back game. This is the walk back pivot game. So this is a build off of the exercise we just got done doing. You should not move to this exercise until it's easy for you to step backwards, your dog's not racing past you, and you feel very comfortable in your mechanics. You're dropping that treat, you're clicking before the dog gets to it, and as the dog's getting to it, you're taking that next step back, so you're not stopping in between delivering each treat. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna start off backwards like I just did it, and then when she's doing well, I'm gonna pivot so she's gonna be on my left side. So I'll show you, it's a little bit easier if you see me coming towards you. So I'm going backwards, and now I'm going to do the same effect as I'm walking towards you. Now I've pivoted, and when we're dropping it, we don't want to drop the treats in front of. I was kind of sloppy in that video. I don't know the layout of the house, so I don't fall in anything. But as you get more comfortable and practicing the first stage, you're going to get where your steps are. And also you can do it this direction as well. But what you want to do, come here, Speedy, is pivot so the dog he's on your left side. For him, he'd be on your right side. And then you're dropping the treat, and the dog's practicing walking at your pace and not practicing moving in front of you because you're dropping the treats at your heel or slightly behind you. This is the walk back pivot game. You don't want to go to the next exercise until you can do this 4 out of 5 times in a row. Again, inside the house, then the back deck, then the backyard, then the front yard. When you can do it 4 out of 5 times in a row, walking on your sidewalk from your property line to your neighbor's line, then you're ready for the next exercise. Okay, for this exercise, what we're going to be doing is teaching the dog to pace with us. Now, we're doing this all together, which she's not going to be as good at this as I'd like her to be, because normally I would like a week's worth of walk back game, a week's worth of a walk back pivot game, which sets this exercise up for success. But I want to show you guys. So what I'm going to do is I've got a treat here. Step, treat. Step, treat. Notice I'm doing it on my side. Now I lower back in that position. Step. Well, all right. So since she's going ahead of me, and there's no exact right or wrong when it comes to your body mechanics, but because she's racing against me, I'm going to use the hand that's near her to have the treats. This is kind of whatever is comfortable for you, but I think when I'm reaching, it's causing her to go in front. So I'm going to put my treat pouch on this side as well. Another benefit of having the treat pouch is you can get those treats out as easy as you want. So I have my treat, my leash, and see how now she's gravitating towards where I want her to be. Okay, let's get this down. So I step, step, step. So I don't want her racing ahead of me. So I'm just going to do this one step at a time. Let me move back, way back over here. And eventually it'll be like, always turn away from the dog. But again, see where I'm delivering the treat, behind the seam of my pants. And again, this one we're doing one step, click and treat. At first you'll stop and start, kind of like this. First you're going to be like, but eventually it'll look like this. Turn. If you have a treat pouch, you don't have to treat your hand. 2, 3 steps. So first you're going to start off with just one step, click, treat. Getting the dog walking next to you, not walking in front of the seam of your pants. Do a tight circle like I just did, you'll get dizzy like I am right now. So keep your eyes open. And then eventually you're going 2 steps before you click, with the dog walking in that heel position. Although this is not a heel exercise, we want the dog's nose here and the body back here. Eventually you're going to work up to about 3 steps, 4 steps before you click and give the dog a treat. Now I'm going to show you the next exercise, which I call the stutter game, which is a build off of this. Because eventually, you're watching, she was going in front of me. I'm gonna go back here and walk towards the camera so you can kind of see it. Now again, I want her on my left side. See how that movement comes in handy for this sort of thing? All right, so what I'm gonna do is kind of doing the same thing I was just doing, but I want her to move in front. And I take one step. So when she gets out of position, I start backing up. I wait for her to orientate towards me. We go in the same direction, take at least one step, and I click and give her the treat. That's what I call the stutter. Because eventually with the loose leash walking, I don't mind if she goes and sniffs that tree or the fire hydrant or whatever it is. She just can't pull me to get there. So right there, she's in front of me, or backwards. One step, click, give her the treat. So these are kind of two exercises that can kind of go together. The first one, the one-step click treat, sets this next one up. The stutter game is the money exercise of all the exercises we're going for, because the dog's going to get out of position. Life is distracting. So when she does, step backwards, and give her that treat, and then you're walking along. And notice I'm not giving her a treat each time. Now, see, she's trying to go to my right side. She's kind of used to, I'm guessing the guardians have probably let the dogs go kind of wherever. So that's what she's used to. I go here, I go there. I'm not saying that your dog has to walk in your right or left. I just found as a professional that teaching your dog this is your side and this is your side gives you better control, one arm, one leash into each arm. And also the dog knows this is where I'm at and they're not bumping into each other. You're doing a great job. So again, same leveling up in the house. So you can walk from your door all the way over there, dog's walking next to you without really needing to do the pivot. Now at first, anytime you do the pivot, or the stutter, you just start walking backwards. And make sure you're delivering the treat at nose level. You saw she was jumping up. If I'm holding the treat up, she's gonna jump up. So she's out of position, come back, keep walking backwards till she gets to me. So this is the leash, this is the walkbacks, or this is what I call the stutter game.